The following work is brought to you by ScriptCrib. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon for more information on our works. And as always, if you want to know more about what we're doing and be up to date when we release it, always like and subscribe. The room was nearly pitch black, just as he liked it. He didn't like the bright screens or the fluorescent lights overhead. He wanted near stark darkness, with only light coming from what little made it through the curtains that covered the bulletproof windows and what little sliver made it from underneath the door. If he could have total darkness, he would, but no city in Eden had that. No subterranean city on Earth was capable of being pitch black, as the masses would riot. Captain Woedeck sat in his desk chair located just behind his desk. He was fortunate to have a single office all to himself. Many of the other officers were forced to work out of cubicles or simply not have any space to themselves at all. However, after all he had done for Poe, it was the least they could do. He had a reputation for capturing outlanders on the surface and bringing them for stiff, harsh punishments. Capital punishment wasn't legal, but Captain Woedeck saw to it that several outlanders received death as their reward. His superiors wouldn't have to deny what they didn't see. He exhaled slowly and closed his eyes, trying his best to take in the quiet reflection. It calmed his nerves and brought him a sense of peace. The past few days had been rougher than most, but it was the time that he was able to enjoy the quiet that gave him joy. He could reflect on what happened and how he ended up with his back affixed to the arid wasteland floor, waiting on an evac shuttle. Urolt Noontz bested him, which was still weighing heavily on his mind. He needed to know how to defeat him and how to bring him in, though he also wanted to know how it happened so it wouldn't happen again. Though his muscles and bones had healed, his pride was still badly bruised. A light tap on the door jarred his eyes open and brought him out of his deep meditation. Erinna turned his head to see the doorknob turning slowly, followed by the bright light from the hallway filling up the room. Erinna winced slightly as a young woman, fresh out of the Revux City Academy, stepped forward and stood at attention. "Captain Woedeck, I was told to deliver some pertinent, time-sensitive information to you." Erinna's eyes adjusted slowly to the bright white lights coming from the hallway. "Go on," he moaned while trying to get a good look at the young girl. She was average height with stark, blonde hair pulled back behind her in a ponytail. She was fit, though most recruits fresh out of the academy were. There wasn't enough time for her to give up the fitness regiments in exchange for extra rations stolen from the street. Being a member of Poe had its advantages. "Captain, it appears that we have the location of the Noontz family," she said as she stood at attention in the doorway. "Satellite surveillance after your last brush with them showed them taking off to the south, to an area we believe to be referred to as the Crater." Erinna clasped his hands together and leaned forward, lurching over while trying his best to listen intently to the new recruits. "And we know enough about the crater to know that it's not worth venturing into without a small army. What of it?" The young girl cleared her throat and remained calm. "This morning, we captured 3 smugglers in the utility caverns just outside the boundaries." Erinna slowly rose to his feet and tilted his head, waiting patiently for more information. In exchange for their release, which was granted, they showed a small squadron the route to the crater. "So they were stealing rations and other supplies from Revux City and taking them to the crater?" asked Captain Woedeck rhetorically. He knew the answer, but he wanted to hear the young recruit say it. "That is correct, Captain Woedeck," she affirmed. "These 3 smugglers showed the squadron the route into the crater in exchange for their immediate release. I'm sure you're aware of the network of tunnels created to connect the cities of Eden. These smugglers informed us that several tunnels have been created to connect the crater, as well as other outlander settlements, to the tunnels of Eden." Erinna's eyes widened with glee at the prospect before him. The thought of attacking the crater, a known syndicate outpost, was not something discussed frequently. The harsh radiation from the sun, combined with the arid wasteland, made it not ideal. It was possible to lay siege to it, but it wasn't something that was ever thought to be prudent. Instead, wars against the syndicate were waged on the surface with small squadrons, or within the cities of Eden. Now, with a network of tunnels at their disposal, an attack against the syndicate was possible. He rose to his feet and did his best to suppress a sinister grin. "What's your name?" inquired Erinna as he stepped over to the side of the room to a small cabinet. He opened it up and pulled out a single glass and a decanter filled with an amber liquid. He could tell the young girl standing in the doorway was curious about him, but was too shy and awkward to discuss it. Private Holdings," she answered slowly as she watched Captain Woedeck pour himself a drink. "Brittany Holdings." Captain Woedeck turned around and held onto his drink, sipping its contents slowly while nodding at the young woman. "How are you liking serving the citizens of Earth? How are you liking being a protector of Eden?" Brittany remained calm and at attention as Captain Woedeck went back over to his desk and sat down. He leaned back in his chair while keeping his eyes trained on her, waiting patiently for her answer. "Sir, I don't know how to answer that." "Of course you do. Relax, Brittany. You don't have to stand in my doorway in attention just because I'm your superior, laughed Captain Woedeck. As you can see, I'm having a libation. I'm at ease right now. You should be as well. Now simply answer the question. Are you enjoying being a member of the Protectors of Eden? Brittany lowered her shoulders and blew a steady stream of air through her pursed lips. I don't know, sir. I've been in the academy for over a decade, and, to be honest, it's all I really know. I've only known what Poe has provided for me, but this is the first time I've actively served the citizens of Revok City. Aaron raised his eyebrows and took another sip of the amber liquid, feeling the contents touch his lips followed by his tongue. The warm sensation brought him peace as his mind centered on who this girl was. You were one of the children we found 12 years ago on the streets of the surface, he asked curiously, already knowing the answer. He was there on those missions. He picked up several of those children and brought them to various cities of Eden. Their parents were gone, but they had survived, and somehow, the harsh conditions of the earth didn't faze them. Some of my oldest memories were seeing men and women in the streets, dead. The harsh reality of the overworld, I guess, she answered concisely. It boggles my mind why people still choose to live on the surface, even knowing how dangerous it is, inserted Aaron. Brittany took a deep breath and shrugged her shoulders. I guess I don't understand why we have such an issue with the Outlanders. We're all humans. Why do we hunt them down? Why do we hate them? She asked curiously, opening up to Aaron as he continued to sip the amber liquid. There are several reasons, but the first of which boils down to resources, explained Aaron slowly. Every citizen who lives in Eden is provided with rations and housing. Every citizen is provided with the basic necessities to live a functional life. In exchange, they provide basic value for society. No law-breaking, keep everything clean and well-maintained, and treat others with dignity. The citizens of Eden are expected to work and maintain a profession or a craft. The credits they are provided are taxed, which in turn provides the rations and housing for everyone, but they are also allowed to get luxuries. These Outlanders have to get food from somewhere, and the most obvious place is to steal it from Poe. We fight against them to prevent the theft of what belongs to the citizens of Eden. Brittany folded her arms across her chest while continuing to keep her eyes affixed on Aaron. The second reason is that they refuse to subjugate to our will. They refuse to do what is best for humanity, and instead, only serve to better themselves. They trade drugs and weapons for the rations of hard-working citizens of Eden. They provide cybernetic enhancements in exchange for service. It's a great deal that we have to fight against to keep this world safe. Brittany exhaled loudly while still remaining in the doorway, listening to Aaron continue his rant. What about the enhancements, though? Why is that such a big deal? She continued. If someone wants to enhance their body, why does Poe care? Aaron scoffed before setting the empty glass down on the desk. He could tell that Brittany was naive and that she had yet to develop the senses needed to succeed within the ranks of Poe. Why don't I start with, it's not illegal to enhance your body with cybernetics. There are people throughout Revok City, as well as the rest of Eden, who are cybernetically enhanced. There is no crime for manipulating your body with electronics, began Aaron, preparing to continue to lecture the young girl again. The issue is that it gives them an advantage if a fight ever breaks out. Captain Woedeck leaned forward and placed his elbows on his desk. He opened up his hands and gestured toward Brittany with them. So, think of the stereotypical Poe soldier. They're wearing thick armor that covers them from head to toe. They're carrying a carbine rifle, typically with multiple ammunition settings. They are wearing sensor gear that allows for night vision. They are wearing a camera that will relay to the central location that will alert them of any heat signatures. They have several pounds of computer hardware that monitors their biometrics to ensure peak performance. They have a propulsion system on their feet and on their back. Anyone in the street can see a Poe soldier and know, with common knowledge, what they're packing and what they're capable of. If we see a person on the street, we don't know if they're cybernetically enhanced, and if they are, we don't know what type of enhancements they have. It's a mystery and it gives them an advantage. It's why we have to be vigilant and harsh. It's not for power, but for our safety. Aaron took the final sip from his drink while Brittany remained in the doorway. Brittany, I want you to alert command that I will be leading an expedition through the tunnels in the coming hours. We will attack the crater head on, and we will thwart any ambitions the Syndicate might have within Revok City, and even all of Eden. Brittany stood still and nodded. Yes, Captain Woedeck, she said before turning away and leaving his chambers. The door closed behind her, reintroducing a darkness that Aaron appreciated. Now, his meditation was no longer on what happened against Urolt Noontz, but instead was on what he was going to do once he saw him again. With luck, it would be very soon. Hey guys, we'll be back to the next part of our work shortly. But hey, if you like this, and you like me, and you like true crime, why don't you check out one of our other works with Scrib Crib Publishing. Check out Crimes and Secrets of a Desperate Dad by Steve Mayfield, about the Long Island bank robber, Steve Trentell. A man who seemingly had everything, a Wall Street commodities and oil trader living the good life, but the pressure of it all caught up to him and pushed him over the cliff. He became a bank robber, hitting 10 books over a period of 4 months in 2004. Available on Amazon and wherever you get your books. Check out Crimes and Secrets of a Desperate Dad. Kron stepped into the facility, disheveled and distraught after their last encounter. The outlander had slain hundreds of citizens already, murdering them in cold blood with only a short sword. The bright, fluorescent lights hummed overhead as they made their way down a hallway, still in their gear. They removed their helmets and placed them, and their weapons, in small boxes near another hallway before approaching one of the many small conference rooms inside Poe headquarters. Ancient led the way into a small, dark room with a large, wall-sized monitor on the wall and a control panel to its left. He approached it and placed his fingers on the keys, typing a few small things while Kron, Buck, and Red took a seat at the long table in the center of the room. "I'm pulling up the security footage," he stated softly. "Good. Start from when he entered the city," instructed Kron. He closed his eyes and placed his elbows on the wooden table. "It'll be difficult to watch the slaughter, but maybe there is something we can use." Red shifted his attention over to the squadron commander. "And what exactly are we looking for?" he asked innocently. Kron kept his face tilted toward the table with Buck speaking up. "A weakness." As the footage began to roll, each member of the squadron winced in agony. The Outlander showed no mercy. Each man, woman, and child that entered the path of the Outlander met the same fate, sliced into pieces and left to decay. For 20 minutes, the squadron watched the Outlander move with ruthless precision. His blade sliced through the air with ease with almost no resistance. "There has to be something that we're missing," announced Kron as he stared at the large monitor. "No man can move like he does. No man can dodge bullets. No man can deflect round after round with only a small blade." Kron closed his eyes and glanced down at the ground, trying to compose himself with Buck, Ancient, and Red looking at him, hoping for wisdom in this dark time. Red leaned back in his chair and sighed through his nostrils. "What if it's cybernetics?" he asked. The rest of the squadron glanced at him, each with a different expression. Buck was confused, Ancient was curious, and Kron was still stuck in a rant. "Look, I know I'm the new guy, but..." Red's voice tapered off as he tried to compose his thoughts. "In the academy, they spent a few days talking to us about the various cybernetic implants that many surface folk possess. They talked about how it was their way of leveling the playing field against Poe." Kron's face contorted back to a look of curiosity. "Go on, Red. Keep going." Red raised his eyebrows and blew a stream of cold air through his pursed lips. "Well, alright, there's a man named Urolt Noontz. It is known that he has a cybernetic implant in his body that allow him to wield a scythe at a much faster rate than any known human. Perhaps with a short sword, maybe he could deflect bullets and slice through bodies like they're air." Red paused and shrugged his shoulders while remaining in the chair. "Or maybe it could be someone else, but we spent time learning about Urolt Noontz and his sister Karaki." Kron folded his arms across his chest as a bemused look emerged across his face. "No one has gotten a look at this man's face. That long-brimmed hat makes it near impossible to get a look at it. What if it is Urolt Noontz? What if this is the Syndicate actively attacking a city? What if this is retaliation for us arresting Reginald Mitten?" Buck leaned back in his chair and placed his feet on the table. He folded his hands across his chest and clasped his fingers together. "Kron, I don't know," he said slowly. "For the Syndicate to openly attack civilians and murder them in cold blood, that's pretty low and not like them." Kron turned toward Buck and locked eyes with him. "We captured their talisman. We arrested Reginald Mitten. Buck, their motives may have changed. Killing civilians, as well as Poe soldiers, might be their new objective." Ancient turned and placed his hands on the keyboard, pressing a few keystrokes. "Why don't we investigate the first part of what our newest members suggested?" asked Ancient rhetorically. "Let's see where the last known whereabouts of Mr. Noontz are before we anoint him the butcher of Soda City," he said softly, while pressing a few buttons on the keyboard. Kron, Buck, and Red all turned toward the wall-sized monitor as Ancient pulled up the information. "Right now, we need just as much discretion as we do action." Ancient continued to type as information appeared on the wall-sized monitor. "The current whereabouts of Urolt, Abel, and Karaki Noontz is the crater. The last sighting of them was yesterday, near Revux City, by Captain Woedeck." Ancient continued to read a small screen to the side of the control panel while a picture of all three members of the Noontz family were displayed on the screen. There's little information about what they were doing or where they were headed. All that's here is they were seen. Kron and Buck both chuckled under their breath, with Red appearing confused. "What's funny?" inquired Red innocently. Buck shifted his attention away from the monitor and over to Red. "No one likes to put it in a report when they get their ass handed to them," he answered with a hearty chuckle. "When a report is this incomplete, Red, it means that either the mission did not go to plan, or that what they were doing was off the books," explained Kron in a much more professional manner. Kron looked over at Ancient and smiled. You know what to do. Ancient nodded and turned back around, pressing a few buttons on the console. The Outlander took out most of our communications with the other cities of Eden. Fortunately, most of the suit's cameras, as well as the transports, are fed to servers that are housed in all of Eden. We should be able to get a better idea of what happened. The three others in the room waited patiently for Ancient to pull up whatever information they could acquire. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the suit footage of the battle pulled up, with Captain Woedeck being easily bested by Urolt Noontz and his scythe. They watched his escape and laughed at Captain Woedeck's creativity, using his propulsion system to cast him out into the arid wasteland. Once he landed, the distress call was registered. Revux City, this is Captain Woedeck. I am transmitting my coordinates now for extraction. I have engaged the outlaw Urolt Noontz as per the plan. The Syndicate attacked the transport just as we planned, but unfortunately, the mission has ended in failure. Buck let out another hearty laugh. Oh, so they tried to ambush the Syndicate on the surface? It appears so, answered Kron. Ancient, where are the coordinates of his extraction? On the wall-sized monitor, a map appeared with Soda City on it and the point where Captain Woedeck was extracted. That's over 200 miles from here, and the timestamp is 18 hours ago. Kron sighed loudly upon seeing the information on the screen and hearing Ancient's voice. Well, that destroys that theory, muttered Kron as the wall-sized monitor went black. That doesn't mean it's not another cybernetically enhanced warrior, Kron. It just means it's not that one, affirmed Red. Kron raised his eyebrows and sighed loudly. That's correct. Could very well be another cybernetically enhanced member of the Syndicate. He placed his hands on his hips and glanced down at the ground. We're nowhere closer now than we were when we left the street. Were you thinking would be? Inquired Buck from his chair. Kron sighed heavily. He was hopeful but equally realistic. They could only speculate as to who the Outlander was. Even after watching the footage of him murdering the citizens of Soda City, they were no closer to understanding who he was or what his motivation was. I was hopeful, answered Kron. Ancient stepped away from the computer and walked over to Kron. He placed his hand on his shoulder and patted it gently. It was worth a shot, he said softly, trying his best to comfort him. Let's go get some grub and polish up our gear. We're going to need it operational before we engage him again. And we will definitely engage him again, announced Red as he rose to his feet. Come on, Kron. I'll get you a sandwich.